This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Hello, Alex.
Hello, how are you doing?
I am great. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. You seem particularly buzzed this morning.
I am. Oh my goodness. I had the most awesome experience. I went to see Tiffany live. Okay, you're too young. You've got no idea who Tiffany is. But anyone who was around in the 80s will know Tiffany. She was an 80s pop star with the song, I Think You're Alone Now. You
Well,
must
I
know
think
that song.
the only way we're going to get around this is if you do us a rendition
No,
live.
that's not going to happen.
But I do know the song. I do know that song.
And what was amazing about it, and I actually met her, I spoke to her afterwards, and I said to her, I'm in marketing and I have to tell you this rocked. Because what she did was she combined it. The session was actually called Food with Tiffany. And she combined it,
Sorry?
Food with Tiffany.
Food with Tiffany, okay.
Yeah. So she took over this whole place and she combined. The menu was all Tiffany branded, Tiffany chosen burgers. There was a Tiffany branded cocktail. There was like, she took over this whole place, then was there early to actually meet and mingle. She sat at people's tables while they were eating her Tiffany burgers and chatted to people all around. It was so phenomenal. And then went and did her set. Like it was
Nice.
just from an experience perspective. And okay, so I will tell you that everyone there was my age, all the Tiffany fans.
Yeah.
But everyone was glowing, thrilled, sang along to her songs. Oh, it was the way that it was done was just phenomenal compared to, I'm thinking of you and I have been to concerts together where
Yeah.
there's no interaction. There's nothing other than people flogging t-shirts with the picture on outside the venue. Like that's the most the
Yeah,
most interaction you got, right?
it gave you a full immersive customer experience, fan experience, right?
Absolutely. And I was blown away. I stole the menu.
What was the cocktail? Was it a cosmopolitan?
It was not, sadly. It was a cocktail, chocolate martini with coconut. You would have loved it. It had
Chocolate
chocolate.
martini, chocolate
Yeah,
martini, coconut.
it was chocolate, so not my thing. Well, actually, chocolate and burgers are not my thing, but
Yeah,
but it didn't matter, right?
I know. So was it it was all like a pre-ordered thing? Like how did it what was the process from buying a ticket to getting there if it was if there was more than just a concert?
I mean, maybe they could have done more. Maybe I should offer her some marketing advice on the run up to it. But so where I saw it was all on. I follow on Instagram because I'm a fan. So it was well marketed, I think, to her target audience. Like really got that demographic right. Then you got the tickets. About a week before, you got sent the menu in case you wanted vegetarian or something different. So there was a drip feed of communication prior. Then when you arrived, you were given a little. Your name was had a name. A slip with your name on it, which had your choices on it. And then if you hadn't made your choices, you could tick your choices, which then went off to the chef. You went to find a seat, and then they came and found you. You would walk around going, Erica, is there an Erica here? And then they would come and deliver your food to you, right? Um, so it just was special. It was just really special. And you were sitting, the fact that you were sitting with fans, like literally everyone was there for the same reason. It kind of crossed all boundaries, all like we were literally all focused on this amazing woman and her story and her songs, right? And then at the parts where it was sing along, of course, the whole place erupted into sing along. It was really brilliant.
Yes, that sounds great. And were there other musicians playing?
There was an opening act before her, but again, she introed him personally. So she brought him on, she introed him, she told him to share his socials, she explained why she loved him, where she'd seen him before. It was so she was still the center of the entire experience. Does that makes sense?
Yeah.
And then after a set, I think she disappeared for a while, probably to she admits she's a self-admitted tomboy and she was wearing heels. So I think she went to go change out of her heels, but then came back for the diehards who were still hanging around. And then did the crowd mingling again. Like it was just brilliant.
Sounds exhausting.
For her, yes.
For her, yeah. Sounds exhausting. Where is she from?
She's from America.
Okay. So what would your key piece of advice be to Tiffany?
I don't know. I'm still on a buzz. So she's obviously done something right? Because it's not often that I'm buzzing like almost 24 hours later, right? That's not normal. Usually we've had a great time and it's awesome, but it's not normal that I'm still like, but it did. There was a talk I went to 2 weeks ago by Vinay Palmer, actually on customer experience, and he's asked the question: how do you want your customers to feel when they interact with you? And I think for me, that's the golden thread that Tiffany got right. She answered that question. She said, how do I want my customers to feel by the end of this night? And then plotted the activities, even down to a Tiffany branded cocktail. I mean, how clever is that? To the menus with her face in, to that, like, plotted it through, and she achieved it. And it's such a lesson, I think, for all of us in business, right? And it's even up to your marketing messages. All of it has to start with that end. How do you want them to feel by the end? Therefore, what do I need to be doing from the beginning to make that happen?
Sounds like she wanted her fans to feel seen, important, and what's the word? Seen, important, and like exclusive, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And loved, actually. Like literally,
appreciated.
We do. Like, she told me she liked my dress. I'm gonna wear that dress for the rest of my life.
That's funny.
She hugged us and said, thank you for coming. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's another level. I'm thinking of, which was the concert you and I went to? And was it The Darkness? Was it the week? No, yeah, Darkness. Was it Darkness?
Not sure which one.
Where he was in the crowd, remember?
Oh, yeah, The Darkness. Yeah.
We almost touched him, right? It was close, like we were, and so we got excited with the selfie, with close in the background. But this is like a whole different level to that, right? Like I actually hugged her. She actually spoke to me. She said she loves South Africa. She's been there many times. She can't wait for her next trip.
That's great. That sounds like a really good experience. Well, I mean, it would be hard to do that at a certain level of fame. Maybe in her heyday, it would have been a lot more difficult to pull off that kind of experience for the customer, for the fans, right?
Absolutely. And for different businesses, it'll mean different things, but it doesn't mean you don't need to think about it.
No. I'm saying in her stage, this works, and it's a good way of engaging her fans to feel the way that she wants them to feel. But so at the age and stage of her business, which is herself, her product, which is herself, it works in that way.
Absolutely. And I think, for example, I mean, insurance, where you and I spend a lot of our time, I don't think there's any thought in that question, is it? How do we want customers to feel?
I mean, it's definitely lacking in that industry, for sure.
It is, right? And I mean, what a big difference that would make if someone just sat and plotted that and thought, okay, How do we want people to be not resentful, because that's the general word with insurance, right? Resentful. Like, I'm going to pay you and nothing's going to happen, right? It's resentful. How do you change that story? What do you need to do? And for me, the other key thing is it's about experiences. It's not about sending a thank you email. It's not about that. I had a negative experience actually yesterday as well, which was with, and I'm going to name them because I've been a loyal customer for many years, which is with Gusto. Okay, I was a loyal Gusto box orderer, right?
Name and shame.
And for many years before COVID, when they were still new and upcoming, I've been there because they delivered the service I need, right? I can pick and choose wonderful, balanced meals for my family. It all gets, I don't have to measure. I don't have to chop things. I don't have to whatever. I don't have to think about what am I cooking today. So it really works for me. And I've been consistent. Yesterday, I was supposed to get five meals for the week. That's how I plan it. And only 3 arrived.
Okay, not a good
So,
start.
so I contact them, right? Like, hey, what's happening? Oh, there was supposed to be 5 and they only got 3. They go, oh, they'll contact the courier company. Okay. I get a call from the courier company saying, hi, we believe that you're missing a box. I'm like, yes. There was supposed to be 5. There's only 3. So I'm assuming the other 2 are in a second box, right? Like, here it is. They're like, oh, we're so sorry. And now we can't deliver it because it's got a deliver by date on.
Oh, yeah.
So please contact Gusto for your refund.
It doesn't really help the empty stomachs of my family.
Anyway, I contact them. I'm like, okay, here it is. The box hasn't been delivered. Okay. What was in the box? So first I had to now go through what was in the box. You packed the box. Do you not know what box? But okay, fine. And then, no problem, we'll send your money back. And again, it felt flat. That is the least I would expect because I didn't get my goods. So then you shouldn't take my money. But now I'm 2 meals out on my planning. It is a huge inconvenience to me.
Yeah, there should be. Oh, you would expect. I've. It's not necessarily about the money in that position. It's about the food that I expect and the food for my family. I don't know how quick their turnaround is in terms of getting the food out to people, but you maybe in that case rather an immediate replacement, right?
In even just an acknowledgement of the inconvenience to me. Anything, right?
Like here's your money back plus a free meal or
Or
something.
10% off your next box or anything. A free freaking spoon. Sorry, I'm not, please cut the swearing out. But,
Not swearing, I didn't even notice.
But you know what I mean? Like, from experience perspective, I'm finished. I'm finished. I'm going to shop around.
Especially if you say, look, I've been shopping with you every week for the last 5 years. That's quite an investment into your business. And I feel quite undervalued right now, considering the amount of value I've given into your business.
And actually, when they were looking me up, they should have seen, oh my goodness, this is a 5-year customer. If they had proper CRM systems in place, right? This is a 5-year customer. I think a £10 voucher would really go a long way for this inconvenience.
Well, I mean, it's having the right CRM system and it's having the right person to build a correct strategy around it. They may have a great system, but they don't use it properly.
So anyway, from a customer experience perspective, I went from boo to yay all in one day.
So are you moving from Gusto?
I'm shopping around as we speak.
That's a great loss for them.
Talk with my feet, right? Talk with my feet.
Yeah, but I mean, you're not alone. So if you think about how many other people would be put off by that kind of experience, there's going to be a lot of people, and it's quite a simple fix.
It is a simple fix. But actually, this Vinay Palmer guy that I was listening to, he said something interesting. Is when you are a one-man band, your customer experience is dependent on you. So when you decide that question, how do I want my customers to feel? You are the one that has to make it happen. But as you grow, you also need to think about how do you make sure that customer experience is completely consistent, no matter what touch points people have. And this could be the problem with Gusta, right? Is maybe the person I spoke to is probably maybe the one person out of 10 who didn't do what they were supposed to do. I'm trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But do you understand what I'm saying? Because the bigger your organization, the harder that becomes, unless you're really clear on your measurements, your tracking, how are people rewarded, compensated? How do you make sure every single touch point across your organization knows that this is the customer experience we expect?
Well, that's the benefit of automated processes, right? Rather than relying on which side of the bed did my customer service agent get out of bed from in the morning, you know?
Absolutely. I mean, there's always a level of human decision making, right? But if they're rewarded correctly, then if the reward is simply financial loss, then yes, give the least possible to keep the client happy is the answer. If the measurement is on customer retention, can you see the decision making would be slightly different?
Yeah. I think Amazon had a really good case study for that, because I mean they're huge, but then I think they what was it? Their main focus, right? It's just the customer. So is the customer happy? What would the customer want in this point? What does the customer want in this point? It's very, very customer focused rather than profit focused. And I think that makes a huge difference. And that company is huge. I know it doesn't have, it's had its own problems.
Yeah.
But considering the size of the business, I mean, again, in certain countries, in like the UK, for example, it's pretty seamless.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty seamless, but it's a behemoth of a machine, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, one of my very first projects, very long time ago now, was a customer experience project at a bank. And we ran the program for a year, and then there were 5 winners chosen. And the prize was a 1-week trip to see the customer experience giants, who at the time were the Ritz-Carlton in America. Where did we go in London? We did London, New York, Seattle. In Seattle was the fish company. You must have seen that video where they're throwing fish around and making people happy. And they were like how to make selling fish a good customer experience. Then the Ritz-Carlton, and then I can't remember who we visited in London. But anyway, we went behind the scenes of these companies to try and understand how they got consistent customer experience throughout the entire organization, what the training processes were, what the measurements. And I remember clearly with the Ritz-Carlton is every employee had a discretionary pocket money budget.
Okay.
So that if there was anything like they needed to buy the customer thank you flowers or a sorry box of chocolates or whatever, they all had this. That was part of the deal, is they had a discretionary pocket money budget that they could use their own intuition to, what do I need to do to lift the customer from even just from content to happy? Because that's what the Gusto thing was with me, right? I got my money back. So it was a neutral transaction.
Yeah.
But my feelings were not neutral.
Yeah. And that's actually also quite a clever, when you're talking about what are the incentives for the employee. Is it just on financial loss, which is not a great thing, or is it something else? With the example you just gave with the Ritz, because a lot of the workers in the Ritz get tips, right? Yeah. So if they have an extra piece of ammunition, let's say, to help them keep the customer happy, it's in their benefit, because it's going to put a good light on them. It doesn't necessarily put a good light on the Ritz. It does, but it also puts a direct light on that employee
Yeah,
because the employee is the one who's giving the money. When they give the money, the well-off customer will be like, wow, I know he just gave me £5 for this whatever flour. But at the end of my 1 week stay, I'm going to give him £100 tip, you know.
exactly. Exactly. It's really, and that's what I mean is it's got to be the bigger your organization, the more you need to think about reward, recognition, measurement, tracking, because what you measure is what you get. So if you measure sales, you're going to get sales.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, right?
Yeah.
But it's also so fascinating, and maybe it's not. Maybe it's a case of because I had that talk by Vinay Palmer on customer experience that now I'm just so aware. Like I'm just like seeing all these customer experience examples in my life because the awareness was raised.
Yeah. But you do notice it. I mean, you noticed it with whoever you're still with. Say maybe with Gusto before, for example, you enjoyed the service up until a point now. So we're maybe not really conscious of those experiences we loved, but if you stop to think and say to yourself, which subscription services or which yeah, what am I still part of? What am I still paying for? What am I still getting value from? And if you look at that and you think, well, why am I with that? Well, it's probably because I'm enjoying it. I'm getting the money I'm paying. I'm getting double that back in terms of value or entertainment or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And then all of that can be part of your marketing message, right? If that's your marketing message, because if you measure that, let's say you measure the customer satisfaction. If your customer experience is meeting it's ticking all its boxes, then your customer satisfaction survey is going to be high, right? You're going to be 99% of our customers are happy. And then that can feed into your marketing message. Mm-hmm. Or you're also going to get a lot more testimonials, a lot more positive comments in your socials, a lot more Google reviews that are positive, which then gives you ammunition to use in your marketing. So it has a real knock-on effect. Plus, it'll make your retention easier because then it's not a price discussion. When customers are choosing between do they stay with you or do they go to someone else, it'll really be about, I don't know if they're going to treat me in the same way. And I actually really like the way this works, right? So I'm going to stay.
You're right. And as soon as you can push price out of the decision-making window, you're onto a winner, right? If price doesn't become the object of rejection.
Yes. Absolutely.
Definitely. Cool. So should more artists like Tiffany in their particular stage and age of their career take a leaf out of her book? Or is it only because of her personality that it works and it's quite unique to her?
It's a hard one. I don't know. I love live music, as you know. Like I'm a massive live music fan. And I've got absolute favorites. And maybe it's also generational, Would I have gone for dinner with one of the newer artists? It probably wouldn't mean the same. I would go for a different reason, but because she was part of my teenage molding years and like I would sing her songs in my bedroom, while I was like feeling frustrated with the world. And so maybe that's why it means more to have connected.
Yeah.
Right? So probably these artists now should go to this generation when they're 20, 30 years on. And it's about meaning.
You wouldn't go for dinner with Justin Bieber.
Well, but that's for a different reason. I think it works really well when there's been an emotional connection with your audience.
Yeah.
When they were part of, even, who sings Red Red Wine? UB40.
40.
I'm there, right? For that UB40, because again, it was my emotional teenage years. I used to sing when I was angry with my mother. I would sing that there's a rat in the kitchen, like because I would, but she wouldn't know it was about her. Well, I don't think she knew it was about her, but it would get my frustration out, right? Because that's how I expressed myself, and so that's got emotional. Like every song, I can tell you what I was doing at that time, who I was with, what was happening in my life. It's got that connection. So that I think would mean a lot more to me than Justin Bieber, right? I don't have an emotional connection with Justin Bieber, but you know what I mean. Like where with the from that 80s 90s when I was in my molding years, I have absolutely emotional connection. So I think that's when it probably works best, is my opinion.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's but that's kind of hard to, if we looked at Justin Bieber, for example. I mean, there's probably people who are now aged, I don't know, just coming up to the age of 30 or something. I don't know. How old is Justin Bieber?
No idea.
Let's say
Younger
he's,
than me, I think.
let's say he's, let's have a little Google search. Quite interesting. He's 30. Oh, wow, I was correct. So I guess if you have 30-year-olds just turning 30, maybe they have the connection that
Yes,
you had with Tiffany.
exactly.
Right?
So I think it's about where you have the connection. Like who, if you think about when you were growing up, what is the artist that stands out in your mind as like just had that helped you through tough times or whatever, right?
Yeah, something very aggressive. And I'm actually going to see them in November. They're coming to Colombia.
There we go, right?
It
And it was real. Now imagine if they had an immersive experience where you could actually sit and talk to them and have dinner with them.
would probably be a really messy dinner, and we'd all have,
But would you pay more for that or not?
yeah.
Except that's my point, right? It's a financial conversation. It's not even just a feelings based conversation. You would pay more for that opportunity.
Yeah.
So they don't have to offer it to everyone because not everyone's going to afford the higher price. But those die hard, yes, please pick me, I want to be the one, would pay the price. So then you have a small intimate group of that die hard fan who maybe get 2 hours before the main show of
Yeah. Yeah.
immersive discussion, and then fine into the, and they kind of do it in big concerts now, right, where you pay more for that inner circle-y area.
Yeah, they do that a lot.
But this is the next stage of that immersive contact.
Yeah. Yeah, they are still doing it for, it's much, I mean, Tiffany, for example, has she doesn't have, I guess, doesn't have a huge fan base
Yeah,
where she's still selling out arenas.
yeah.
So where you still have bands that have, I don't know, like
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses, they're not spring chickens, but they're still selling out arenas.
Yeah,
It's very
selling out.
hard to do something like that. So,
But
like
even
you said,
them, if they put in that other layer, I'm saying, right? Because they've got the inner circle layer, which you pay more, and then the stand, and then this,
yeah,
like, there were the layers. I bet you if they put in another layer, even at 10 grand a pop, whatever, which is come and have dinner with a group, there would be people who would pay it.
yeah, of course. They do that at big sporting events and some boxing events. You can pay eye-watering amounts of money to get, you got the front seat, but then you also have access to the fighters back area where you can go around and mingle and talk. But that's like the elite. I mean, you've got to be super rich to get there, but still they have that offer. It's still part of that experience, but it's
And then,
just exclusive, not open to me, basically.
and then back down to our real world, like where we don't have people who would pay lots of money just to spend time with us. But what does that experience level look like? Is there something in our business flow that you can create an elite experience?
Yeah.
So you have your normal customer experience, which must still wow the customer, please, not being bad. But then is there an elite experience? Maybe Gusto, 2-hour delivery, don't know if it's possible, but you know, is there urgent, I forgot to do any shopping and I need dinner on the table, can I get same day delivery of my box?
Yeah, and but often it's even just language. I mean, but I was part of. I flew with Virgin a few times, not that many times, literally a few times, and I was collecting points with them. Why not? But you know, I was not even. I'm not even considered a frequent flyer at all with them, and so I was on the lowest of the lowest of the lowest of the lowest bands, and probably in the bottom part of that. But still, the way that they would communicate with me, the way that they talk to me via the emails, and the frequency of the emails and the perceived offers I was getting, even though I wasn't really paying anything, I'd only had a few flights, very regular. I still felt somehow important to them. I don't know how to explain it, and
Virgin is a good example.
yeah, and they really made me, what if I was going to fly a route that they were on, I'd take it. But at the end of the day, I wasn't really getting any discounts or anything from them. But I can't really explain it, but just the way that they made me feel, I was like, well, I feel like I'm wanted on board rather than being on board with British Airways or something. I felt the way that the communication style, the language they use is a lot more
Tailored.
emotional, a lot more, yeah, a lot more tailored, a lot more emotional, a lot more. It made me feel like I was in an exclusive club, even though I know I'm not in any exclusive club. I'm just part of the horde, but that's not how they made me feel, and that for me was that that was, you know, it's quite impressive how they could do that, to be honest.
And with Virgin, it runs all the way through, right? From their marketing messages, even to that safety video on when you're sitting is done differently. It's done, it's just everything is the whole experience is built around that. I was on a Christmas Eve flight once, and they all the hostesses were wearing Christmas hats, and at midnight, like everyone came and wished happy, like the small little things like that. I was on a Valentine's flight once, and we all got little heart-shaped chocolates on the flight. Like it's just little things, right? Like it doesn't have to be big things. It's
No,
tiny little things.
exactly, that makes a big difference, and it doesn't cost anything for the airline. I actually remember I've only flown once during New Year's Eve. Like we hit 12 o'clock at night on the airplane, and I was thinking, I was like, oh, this would be quite fun, you know. I could maybe could see some fireworks out the window, and maybe they'll come out and do like, hey, Happy New Year! Here's a free small glass. They didn't do anything, and I was like, kind of looking forward to this flight. I can't even remember what the airline was, to be honest, but it was a long flight. It was like a 6-7 hour flight or something. So it wasn't just like a crappy little hour flight on Ryanair or something. And I had that expectation, and I don't think my expectation of cost that much. I mean, how often does New Year's Eve happen for once a year? And how many of their planes are flying right at that moment? Not that many. But it would have made a difference.
And yeah, so kudos to Virgin. I think they do it really well, right? They've thought it through. They've asked the question, how do I want my customers to feel at the end? And then mapped it all the way through to their marketing message to make sure it all stacks up.
Yeah. Having said that, I think they're in trouble though as an airline.
Really?
I think so. I'm not sure. I thought that might be fake news, but I think I read that somewhere. It's a difficult business. The airline business is a very difficult business, though. I think.
Well, especially now with all the sustainability issues and all the rest, right? It's a different world.
Yeah.
On that down note, so if you had to give your top 3 tips, Alex, on customer experience to our listeners, what would you say?
I think the first thing is make them feel wanted and appreciate. I mean, I would say, I mean, just make someone feel wanted and appreciated, and I think you're onto a big winner. And I think if you have that mindset, that helps a lot of your decision making. So at this point of the customer journey, if they're whatever that is, if they're like the complaint part or the sale part or the return part, at that point, just think to yourself, how can I make them feel wanted and appreciated? And if you have that in your mind, I feel that will help you make a good decision that will ultimately benefit you down the line with customer retention and word of mouth. So also new customers as well. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty all encompassing. And I think the other word you used earlier, heard, make them feel heard. I think that's so important, right? Just heard.
Yeah. I think it can get to a point, especially as your business scales, that the transactions and the customers you have can turn into numbers.
Yeah.
And I think it's at that point you just need to be really careful. It doesn't matter how many customers you have on your book, 1 person to 1 million people. You just have to remember there's still those numbers represent a person who has a house, troubles, family, financial issues, the same as you do and everyone else does. And don't forget that.
Yeah. And I think it's also very interesting because most people won't take the time to complain, right? If they're unhappy or they haven't enjoyed an experience, they're just gonna leave. So check your numbers. I always say when people come to me and say, oh, we need to get more leads in, we need to get more sales, let's look across the board because sometimes you have enough. But there's a big fat hole at the bottom of your bucket because, oh, look, you lost 30 today. Have you looked into why? Have you seen what's happening? And that's often just the customer experience didn't meet the expectations, right?
Yeah.
So
no, you're right. That's easier
just check it. It's much easier to leave, right? Just go and shop around. And in today's world, because everything is so accessible, it's really easy to just Google who's the next one in line, find another one, move, right? That feels like an easier conversation than fighting with a company to improve their processes.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, I'm still on my Tiffany buzz. I wonder how long it's going to last. You have an awesome day further, Alex.
Thank you very much. You too.
See you.
All right. Bye-bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.